I'll be here.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to One of My Conversations. This is your host, Skid, and I'm here with Ginger Lynn Allen. She's an actress, artist, designer, and anything else you want to add to that?
I'm a bit batshit crazy, but in the best way ever. I kind of think 60% like a woman and 40% like a dude. I was a total tomboy growing up. And so when I say that I'm slightly batshit crazy, I shouldn't say this out loud, but I'm speaking on behalf of all women.
So you agree women are
Oh, we're
a
fucking
little
nuts.
crazy.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. It's funny. My boyfriend, um, I was talking to him the other day, and we've been together 15 years. Isn't it nice that we have such a wonderful friendship after 15 years? And it's just we're best friends. And what was I starting to talk about? I forgot.
Uh,
Oh, the batshit crazy. And so, he said something, and I went, "Are you telling me I'm difficult?" He goes, "Yeah, you're a handful." And the funny thing is, Skit, I think I'm the most easygoing, nicest person to get along with ever. But too many people have said, "You're batshit crazy." So I'm going to believe it. And I know a lot of women, and I think that of them as well. Not all, but most of us have that side.
did you feel you were batshit crazy when you were younger too, or is it just now you're realizing it, or
Oh, no,
do you feel
no. It's been since I was about 13,
basically when
um,
puberty hit?
when puberty hit. And that was the summer that I grew a body
Okay.
and I looked like a woman. I had a fake ID. The drinking age was 21 in Illinois. I was 13, but my body had developed so much. I got into until I turned 21 with a real ID. I used a fake ID at 13 stating that I was 21.
So now, did you have the same figure from 13 all the way to 21, or did you grow and change normally, or was it kind of the same?
It was overnight, and the body you see in my first and only first couple years of porn. No, I didn't work at it, but I was always um, performing and a gymnast and an athlete. And one of the things that I used to do when I was little, I always knew that I didn't quite fit into Rockford. And my thought was, I want to be a rock and roll star. I want to be the next Heart. And so I took guitar lessons, did the whole thing. I'm tone deaf and I sound like a cat scratching his ass on a Neely board. I cannot sing at all. But what I would do when I was younger, I'm going to say I started it in like kindergarten, is I would get two of the neighborhood girlfriends to come into my garage and be my backup singers. I would put on Cher's Cherokee Woman. I would put on Little Soldier Boy, Mr. Bojangles, and I would sing while the girls danced in the background. I had a coffee can. It was a nickel to get into the show. We did it all summer long. We made changes on a regular basis. I wanted to be famous since I can remember.
So, were you the one that would stand in front of the mirror with the brush and just sing into the brush? Were you one of
Oh,
those?
fuck yeah. Oh, yeah. And I took guitar lessons for 6 months from Rick Nielsen. I grew up in Rockford. So Rick's dad from Cheap Trick owns a music store. So I took guitar lessons from Rick Nielsen's dad for about 6 months.
That's pretty cool. How was that?
It was amazing. But I really am honestly completely tone deaf. I was never ever able, even with my little pitch pipe, to tune my guitar. So unless I had someone around, so I took guitar lessons at Nielsen's Music in Rockford. I was horrible. Um, Rick's dad told me that, and I think he was trying to be nice, but there really wasn't any easy way because I suck so bad. He goes, "You know what? You sound like a female. Uh, uh, what's his name? Neil Young." Irony. In 1986, I believe, uh, Bobby Bobby Genoa and I can't remember the other guy's name, tall, skinny guy. Um, anyway, they called me up and said, "We want you to do an album." And I said, "I can't sing." They said, "We don't care." So because I really can't. So I told them I was ridiculous. I said, "I want this many thousands up front. I want 60 months of vocal lessons. I want to bring my coach when I come to sing." And I thought they would go, "Are you kidding me?" And they paid me up front a buttload of money. And I did a 12-inch single. I still can't sing. And so I was led to believe, because I'm in the studio singing my heart out, going for it, having the best time ever, giving it my all. And then they said they had a backup singer who would do all the chorus stuff. And so I go on Howard Stern for, I don't know, I've been on there like 9 times, but the album had just come out and he's like, "Wow." He puts it on. He goes, "You can really sing." And I haven't heard it yet. And I look at the album, and it's a 12-inch single, my face on the cover. And then when you flip it over, there's a small black and white picture of a woman named Janice that said that was written in as backup vocals. And so Howard's playing the song. I realize that it's not me. And I start to cry. I'm like, "That's not me. Janice is the singer. She's wonderful. She deserves all the credit. I really can't sing." I had to out myself. I couldn't allow someone, yeah, I couldn't allow someone so talented to not get the credit.
Yeah,
You know?
that's not when it comes to that. They put, not only that, you'll get caught very easily.
Oh yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
So, but when it comes to just giving people credit when the credit's due, it's better to do that because they've earned it,
I
and that
agree.
you
I
never take
agree.
it from them. Now, so were you popular in high school? Like, so all of a sudden, you said your body changed. Were you all of a sudden popular, or were you popular before that, or was it like overnight, all of a sudden everybody noticed? Is that how it went?
Um, no, I was not popular at all. We were very poor. My clothes consisted of blue jeans that were this 8 inches too short, that I would sew other fabric on so they would be long enough, because I just was getting taller, but not heavier. And so I always had like a half a dozen really, really good friends. And that's who I hung with. I was an alley girl. My boyfriend was a baggage guy at the grocery store who sold pot on the time, or at the same time. And we hung out in the alley. I was an alley girl. That's the people that went out and smoked pot. That's the people. This was 76 to 80s, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, but I did acid a lot during high school. I smoked PCP. I smoked honey oil, and one of the main reasons that I did this was not to get high. It was because my grandfather and father were both police officers. And so you don't fuck with the police officer's daughter or granddaughter.
Especially back
And
then,
so,
it was like that.
no. And so my grandparents' home, where my dad and I lived with them, was directly across the street from the local park, which had a little shed. And so my grandpa, he was a cop, and the kids every freaking day would get out there smoking pot, doing their drugs, and so my grandfather was so funny. He'd put on his uniform, he'd walk over to the park, and he would just confiscate all of their drugs,
So, but he wouldn't arrest
which made
anybody.
me, no, no, which made me more unpopular. So I came up with a brilliant idea. My grandfather stashed all the drugs, mainly pot, in a little cubby hole behind a 4x4 in the basement. And so I started inviting everybody over from the park that my grandfather had taken their drugs, and then I would do them with them in my house with my grandfather upstairs to make myself popular. So it wasn't like, "Oh, I'm a loser, I'm just going to do drugs." It was, that's how I made friends.
well, well, well. I mean, technically, it was theirs anyway.
Well, yeah, it was. It was, but they would have no access to it without me.
That's,
I'm a giver. What can I
yeah,
say?
yeah. You know what? You're just helping out a friend. That's pretty much what you're doing. That's it. That's all you. That's
I
all
do
you
that.
were
I
doing.
try every day.
So back then was if you compared like the prom in the 70s. Did you go to that prom in the 70s?
I did.
To your son's prom when he had his? What were the biggest differences that you saw?
Well, first of all, my prom, again, back to being the cop's daughter, not being cool. I had the same boyfriend for the first 3 years of high school. Best guy, just
Okay.
my puppy love.
Okay.
Lost my virginity to him. And then my senior year, I broke up with him and I was working at a gas station. I back when you pumped people's gas in
Oh
like
yeah,
Detroit,
yeah. I remember
Michigan.
that. I remember that. Yeah.
So I took on that as a summer job or a spring job, and I met this 21-year-old biker in a gang, Italian, bad boy, wonderful. I went to prom. I was 17 years old in 1980, wearing a red dress, and my prom date was a 21-year-old biker. So that was my prom. And my son actually did not want to go to his prom. He went to plenty of dances, but he's a little character. Like I remember his first dance that he went to, and he wore a little tuxedo thing and a pink bow tie and a pink cummerbund. I'm like, you're so fucking cool, and he's not gay, which I wouldn't care if he was, but he runs around in a full length. He called it his Hugh Hefner robe. He's always got his robe on, and he wears a top hat. His favorite movie is Dudley Moore.
Oh,
What's the great in New York City? Arthur.
all
Arthur.
right, King Arthur. I think
Yes.
that's what it was.
So he wears his robe and a top hat most of the time. He's wonderful. He's goofy. He's smart. He's funny, and he's intelligent, and I love him to death.
So there was.
But I have to tell you, we had the day came where I had to tell him who I was. It was his first day of high school, and I sent him. I'm not religious, but I sent him to an all boys Catholic high school for the first 2 years. And on the way, I remember we had the top down in my car and we're driving to school. And we pull up. I stopped like a block short, and I said, we need to have a talk. I'm like, all right. And I said, when you want to laugh, you watch a comedy. When you want to get scared, you watch a thriller. When you want to cry, you watch a drama, or sad, you want action. I said, I'm an actress. And for the beginning of my career, I made movies for grown-ups and grown-ups alone. And now I'm waiting there and I'm waiting for a response. And he looks at me, goes, Mom, I'm not stupid. I know who you are. I love you for exactly who you are. And it just floored me. And he had a tough time in high school, until he got on the varsity football team on accident. Um, yeah. So he got put on. He was playing as a freshman, but somehow got connected with the seniors. And so the little asshole freshmen that their parents told them who I was, um, all talked. And so the kids at school started drawing penises on his bag, on his backpack, just calling me names, fucking with him every day. My son started martial arts at 3 years old. He can run up a wall and flip over. He can kill you in about 10 seconds. He was up for the Olympics when he was 9. They were training him for the Olympics. He's such a good martial artist. So he got in a lot of fights. He did not take shit, and he stood up for his mom, and he's my best friend. I love my son so much. Oh, he's still a martial artist. Oh yeah, he's done it since he's 28 now. He's done it since he was 3, and he's a little. He's a, he'll take you down. And the funniest thing is, okay, so we've been in martial art. I'm a 32-year martial artist myself. I have a black belt in Shoto Shinkai, Taekwondo, and a black and red in MMA. So we both know how to fight, and we both know how not to hurt someone, but put them in the right position. And he was visiting me here in Vegas. We were out at a casino, and we were walking down this little ramp area, and I did a judo sweep. Boom! He's back on the ground. I go down and start punching. He rolls me over. He's on top of me. He's trying to get me in a lock. And the security is right there. And we're laughing our asses off. And we're just taking it as far as we can. It stopped when he got me in a chokehold and I tapped out. But like Christy Canyon is my best friend. And Sterling and I just decided to wrestle one day when we were at her house. And she freaked out because it looks so real, and it is real, but we both know what we're doing. I would never hurt my son. Um, but we have this martial arts bond that is just another wonderful thing we have in common.
It must be fun. I mean, to be able to go
Oh, it
back and
is.
forth like that and have fun and know how not to hurt each other.
Oh yeah. Well, I can't tell you how many. I mean, almost every time we see each other, there's some point where we're grappling, and we've never hurt each other.
That's good. You know, you guys are
But it's more
safe and
like,
you're smart about what you're doing.
yeah, and I haven't been in the dojo in 10 years. I had my fourth knee surgery, and I can't have any more knee surgeries.
At some
So,
point, surgery is just you got it. It's you know you don't want to keep having them after a while.
no,
Yeah.
no.
So then, how was it when you found out you were pregnant with him? Then, like, how was that feeling when you found out?
I
Were
was
you
ecstatic. In 1991, when I was on trial uh, for willfully subscribing to a tax return involving Tracy Lords, um, during my trial, I walked out of the courtroom one day. The judge is standing there. We're by the elevator, and I just collapsed. I had the worst pain ever in my tummy, and I couldn't stand up. And the judge was like, I can't help you, but I can call 911." And my attorney was there, and so ambulance came, took me to the hospital, and I had um, 19 cysts and 3 tumors in one of
wow?
my ovaries. And one of the tumors had burst. I was in the hospital for 9 days, and I was told I would never have children. So 4 or 5 years later, I never used protection again. I got pregnant, and it was the one of my best days of my life, knowing, believing that I could never have children. There's That's really a hard thing for a woman. And I always wanted 5, and then I had one and went, I'm good.
Because you didn't expect to have that one even.
I didn't expect it. It was such a gift, such a gift. So I loved being pregnant. I loved, you know, taking my son around the world and showing him things and giving him dreams and helping him to see that you can do anything you want in life, anything you want. So they were wonderful times, and I loved being pregnant with him. And
What what,
yeah,
what
I'm
did
a
you
lucky
find?
girl.
Did you find out from a doctor? Or did you take a test? Like, what was it that moment? Like, where were you?
I was on the East Coast. I don't know the not, or maybe the Midwest, someplace, and I was in a hotel that looked like a cabin to a certain extent. And there was a big glass window that looked out over the river. And I woke up that morning and my nipples hurt so bad. I'm like, what the fuck? And I had 3 days of shows going on. I didn't know what was going on. And I came back, didn't think twice about it. And then Christy Canyon and I had an event we were doing together. So we met at the airport. and we start to talk. I vomit all over her, just, and that was the moment I realized I was pregnant.
Did she realize it at
And
that moment too?
at first she was like, "What the fuck?" And I go, "Christy, I think I'm pregnant." She goes, "You can't be pregnant." I think I am. And so when I got back, I went to the doctor, and they're like, "Yep, you're pregnant." And it was just like, hooray!
So,
Oh my god! I never thought I could. It was just one of
so
my favorite moments in my
that
life.
day that you found out, what did you do? Did you celebrate? Did you like what was for
Oh,
you?
I called the father immediately. I was on tour. I was stripping at the time, but I called the father and said I didn't tell him. I said I have really good news. We've been dating for a few years,
Okay.
known each other for decades, best friends forever, and I said we need to talk. So he came to my home, and I made. He doesn't drink, but I made cheese and fruit and wine. But I couldn't drink either. But I had this little spread. And I bought him an engagement ring because we were already talking about getting engaged. So I made this big production. I was so excited, and I told him. And I was standing up with a stupid cheese tray, and he stood up. He goes, "What?" And I remember dropping the cheese tray, stubbing my big toe, and feeling like the biggest idiot ever. He said, "I can't have a baby out of wedlock." And I go, "Well, we're getting engaged anyway. Let's just do this." And we didn't. And so I've raised my son on my own his entire life.
That's pretty much my mother too. So my father wasn't around, so but my mother, she's always been there, so I understand that
And
feeling.
moms are the best. I love that
Yes.
she brought you breakfast this morning.
Yeah, so my mother's been great my whole entire life. She's always been
Good for you,
great.
honey. You
You
deserve
know,
that.
yeah, because other stuff has life's been the way it's been for since I was a kid, but she's always been one of the bright spots. So because she's always been great to me, she's always been a great mom. So I'm always glad that I have her because even though I grew up poor too, like she always did everything she could to make it. I couldn't afford a lot, but she got whatever she could, or she tried to get a lot of
Right.
things that were cheaper, just so that way I would have a lot of stuff to open. Or she tried her hardest to get the one thing that I really, really wanted when it came to gifts for
Oh.
Christmas or my birthday. So she's always,
See, now I never got any of that. My mother was a diagnosed sociopath. She was a very bad person. But I, my dad is my hero.
yeah,
He was my best friend, and I learned a lot of my parenting skills from my father. My father was a wild child. My grandfather was a wild child. I just happened to be a girl that did the same things that they did. So,
well, you followed the ones that was there for you, basically.
yeah, and my dad was there for me no matter what. I could call and say something bad had happened, like the trial, and my dad drove straight from Rockford, Illinois to Los Angeles to be there for me. He was there for me for everything. We did Sturgis every year for 16 years in a row. He's my hero. Um, he died in a motorcycle accident in 2011. Um, and I miss him so much, but my bright side on it is he lived for about 2 weeks after the accident. And we had 2 weeks to spend together. And he couldn't talk, so I drew these little charts on the black paper that you scratch off, and there's a picture underneath. So I would have like his nose, which meant I'd point to pictures. Do you want your nose scratched? Do you want this scratched? Do you want that scratched? And the thing that I learned from my father the most was family comes first, no matter what. And we all have fucking assholes in our family. We all do. And so my father's one of my father's favorite qualities of mine is his always loving me, always being there, always listening, trying his best to understand, accepting me He was just an amazing man. And so I've raised my child with that same, I'm here for you, no matter what.
So okay, now you went into adult films. What was the type of jobs you had before then?
Um, I was in management from 16 years old on. I began by managing a chain of clothing stores in Rockford. They had 3 stores, and I was the assistant manager at 16 between the 3 stores. They went out of business, and I went to a company called Musicland.
Okay.
Musicland was back in the day when we had vinyl records, and people would go to the music stores and buy their music.
Back when music was music.
Yeah, and so I grew up. I got credit for working, so I would work half the day, go to school half the day, and I moved to California. Uh, I didn't move. I came here to visit my grandfather, who was sick, and I walked into one of the Musicland stores in California and said, "I'm an assistant manager in Rockford, Illinois. I'd love to move out here and work. Here's my parents' phone number. Keep me in mind." And this was just one day I went to the mall to buy a little silly gift for my grandfather. And so my grandfather passes. I go back to Illinois, and it was the first or second day I was there, and they called and said, "We're very interested in you, but not for a manager. We would like you to be a troubleshooter." So I had 9 stores in Southern California. For 3 years, my job was to go in, fire, hire, restock, get it out of the black and into the red. And I did that up until the day that I quit to make adult movies.
So
So I'm really good with people. I'm good. I'm a good salesperson. I'm empathetic. I
okay.
just, yeah. So yeah, I did. And so I moved to California. I had no intentions of getting into porn. Um, but I was paying $350 a month for a studio apartment that had a pool full of rats. There were cockroaches everywhere. The whole
I know
place
that feeling.
was a dump, and I couldn't make it. And I'm working 70 to 80 hours a week. I made $2,000 a month. I worked my fucking ass off 80 hours a week,
Oof.
9 different stores. So I wasn't able to, it was just getting, I was exhausted. I had no friends because I mainly fired people,
Yeah.
and then hired new ones. And the new people were afraid of me because they know I fired everybody else, and I'm good at management. But so what I did was I went into the Orange County Times thinking I need to make some extra money. And I saw an ad for bachelor party hostess. And I'm thinking, I can do that. So my agent gets me a gig. My boyfriend drives me there. I bring a boom box, wearing a sexy little dress. I'm going to go in and dance and entertain these guys. While my boyfriend waits for me in the car, and we have a little, you know, signal that we had in case I was in danger. And I go in with my boombox, and there's like 30 guys in their skit. And I hadn't thought it through. I'm not getting naked in front of 30 strange guys. I couldn't do it. And what if they're going to touch me, and they're going to, and so I grabbed my boombox and I ran out. They followed me out. They beat the shit out of my boyfriend, which caused a big rift.
Yeah.
Um, So I decided, you know what? Bachelor parties are not my thing. So back to the paper. Or no, I didn't. I was at the gym. I was a gym rat for years and years and years. And I was talking to one of the girls, and she goes, "You know what? We have boats, and we're going to go out on the river, and we'll bring as much food and alcohol as we can afford. When we run out, the area that we were boating in had the shorelines were lined with bars. Wet t-shirt contests were huge.
back in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, they were big back then.
I won 9 wet t-shirt contests skit, and
I'm not
I
surprised.
never showed my tits. I would wet down a wife beater. I was too shy in that big group of people to show my titties, but I won 9. I fed us for the rest of the week, got our beer. I entered every single wet t-shirt contest there was. So I'm like, okay, I can, but this is all right. But I still wasn't making enough money. And so I went back to the paper and found an ad that said $500 to $5,000 a day for figure modeling. I'm 5'2". I know what figure modeling means. It has nothing to do with real modeling. And I thought, well, let me see if I could do that. And so I called up the agency. I drove in. I shot for Penthouse that next day. I did 3 months of magazine shoots. Did my first film in December of 1983. I filmed for 2 years and 3 months, and I made 69 films.
Right. So, when the first time you were in an adult film, were you nervous at all, or were you used to being naked or seen provocatively in a sense?
I was not used to being naked or seen provocatively, but I was very comfortable with my body.
Okay.
I had no insecurities, no anything. But what happened was I kept getting asked to be in movies, and I had the same stereotype image as a lot of people did back in the early 80s, that the girls who did it were hookers and drug addicts and losers and bad people. And I'm like, I am so not that kind of a girl. And I met my first porn star and took her to lunch and just asked her every question that I could think of. And so I went back to my agent and I go, all right, I'm going to do this. I want cast approval. I want script approval. I want this much per day. No means no. And no scenes can be changed sexually while I'm in the middle of them. Now, I've never done a movie in my life. I've done some magazines. My Penthouse isn't even out yet. And my agent is on the floor laughing his ass off. He goes, Ginger, who do you think you are? He goes, you're talking to the wall girls, the famous porn stars of all time. You can't do that. And I went, you know what? Then I won't do it. I had my own personal value system and what I valued myself as. And I
Standards and
wasn't willing.
limits. You had
I
standards and
had my
limits.
limits. And the funny thing is, do you remember the Gong Show?
I remember watching reruns.
Yeah, Chuck Barris, and there was a big, giant, tall,
Yep.
beautiful blonde that would hit the gong.
Yeah.
Well, turns out she and her husband, like 2 weeks after I met this porn star, went into my agent's office and they said, we're doing 2 movies on the island of Kauai. We've got $250,000 budget, and we would like you to be one of the leads. Yay! And then they agree to everything. I have script approval. I have every all my things are accepted. And I get back home and I'm like, holy fuck, what I just put so much pressure on myself. What if I can't act? What if I can't fuck on film? I'm being hired as a lead. And so I did 2 8mm soundless loops, one with Tom Byron, the other with a pig. Um, but Tommy and it was so much fun. I love fucking. I loved doing it in front of people. And I especially loved doing it with someone that I liked. And Tommy turned me on like no other. And so that day became my first no list. Uh, and there was one actor that I put on that. Don't want to get into it, but so I did a practice run to see if I could fuck and be comfortable with it. And obviously I was. So I flew off to Kauai. It was my third plane trip in my entire life. I never left the United States. And I did my first 2 movies. And I thought I used my real name is Ginger Lynn Allen. And I thought, okay, well, I'm only going to make 2 movies. I'm making these 2. They're high budget. They're classy. I love the company. I'll use my first and middle name. No one's ever going to see it. It didn't turn out that way.
So now using your real name, people did recognize you or see your name and understand it. Like you said, it didn't work very well. What made it not
Well,
work?
I thought no one would. I'm actually an auburn redhead,
Okay.
hence the name Ginger. And I thought since I dyed my hair blonde, no, and I just used my first and middle name, no one would know. I was so naive. I was so excited to be doing what I was doing. And I wasn't ashamed after meeting that girl and setting down my ground rules. Um, I felt very confident and very excited, and I kicked ass. And Ginger Lynn became, obviously, I did much more than two pictures. And when my dad walked into the local dirty bookstore and put a quarter in the slot, he recognized me right away.
Well, yeah, parents will recognize their children. Now, did he explain his reaction? Was he like, did he come up to you and go, "Can I talk to you for a second?" Did he do that type
Oh,
of?
no. Oh, no. I had not given my parents my home number because I knew people were going to find out soon. So I had a pager. I get a page at like 5 in the morning saying, you need to call your father immediately. So I'm thinking someone has died. So I call my dad. He goes, what the fuck have you done? And I'm like, I posed for Penthouse. Bullshit. I've seen what you've done. What are you thinking? And and the conversation went on for quite some time. I was disowned
Oh,
from the family.
I would imagine it would
But
go on for a while.
the funny thing is, in the bookstore, he told this is the story he told me afterwards. He went there, saw it was me, said to the owner, I would like to buy every copy you have of this. And the guy goes, are you fucking crazy? I'm making so much money off of her. And he goes, it's my daughter, please. And the guy basically said, fuck you. So my dad kind of beat him up pretty bad, and then got arrested. Now, my dad's a cop.
Yeah.
My dad got arrested. He gets out of, my grandmother bails him out of jail. He picks her up, or she picks him up. He drives her to the video store, makes my grandma watch it. And she's going, there's no way. That's not Ginger. That's not Ginger. And it took about 6 months. The way that we made, because like I said, I was disowned from the
Yeah.
family, blah, blah, blah. Don't talk to your sister or your brothers, you know. And I was like, all right. And then it was the 80s. I did coke a lot during the 80s, not when I was working, but, you know, off screen. And I sat down, I bought an 8 ball of cocaine, and I wrote my dad a 17-page letter explaining who I am, how proud I am of who I was based on the way that he raised me. He told me to always believe in myself, never give up. If you want something, go for it. Don't do things that you're going to be ashamed about of or look back and regret. Um, I said at some point in the letter, I said, Dad, you know, I am the same girl that I would be if I worked at McDonald's. I'm the same girl that I would be if I was the president of the United States. I'm the same girl doing adult movies. I am so sorry if I've hurt you. It was not my intention, but you're my father. You've been my best friend. I love you. And if you, of all people, are going to judge me, I don't want you as my dad anymore anyway. And this is my best friend.
Yeah.
And I wrote this letter and sent it to my, he passed a few years ago. I still have it. And he called me up crying. And my very first convention was in Chicago, Illinois. I can't remember. It was,
But the electronic. It's a big. It's a E. Is it
yeah,
E
it's huge. I can't.
something?
Well,
Yeah.
anyway, what was happening at the point in time is you had this big expo with all of these guys coming to Vegas and not with their wives. And then, but and the same venue, you had porn stars. And so I'd never done one before. And I'm sitting there, and I asked my dad if he would, be my bodyguard. And my dad was a big guy, not fat, just big and scary and
How
bikerish.
tall was he?
He was only like 5'11", but
Close
he
to
was a
6 feet,
biker.
but he had stature in his
He
when he
was
stood there.
big, muscular, very threatening, and a biker.
Okay.
And so I had an 8-hour line. I never stopped. I was so amazed, grateful, and tired. And there were several occasions that cracked me up. Somebody would come up and go, "God, I love the way you suck cock." And my dad, standing there with his arms crossed, said, "That's my daughter. What did you just say?" "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, sir." So my dad took on, not only we rekindle our relationship, but we became closer than ever. And he was my bodyguard for years and years and years.
When people would say those type of things, like what you just said that your father heard when they came up to you,
Right?
do you feel uncomfortable when you hear that? Do you not like hearing it? Do you feel that when people
Oh
come
no,
up
it
with you?
doesn't bother me at all. Um, but if I'm out to dinner and you come up to my table, I will hit you. I really will. If I'm like, I remember I was at the Rainbow one night with a bunch of friends, and I was wearing a pink tutu with a little halter top, biker boots, sitting with my friends. There's four of us at the table, just laughing, talking, and this guy comes up, scoots into my booth, sits on my left side, and reaches under my tutu to grab my pussy. So I elbowed him first, spun around, and fucking kicked him in the face. He went down, um, and he got kicked out. So if you meet me at a convention, if you're a fan who's enjoyed my work, I love you. I wouldn't be anywhere without my fans.
Yeah,
But I do not and will not allow to be disrespected.
yeah, yeah,
Now,
that's
if it's
understandable.
just me, I don't give a fuck. I really don't. So,
Yeah, like it's at
uh,
conventions. You talk, you say stuff. It's expected because of what they've seen. They're there because of the movies you've been in. When it comes to
right.
adult,
Most of my fans at conventions are very respectful. And let me think of a bad situation. Okay. So one guy comes up and he goes, "I want you to lick my asshole." And I whispered back, "I want you to eat the peanuts out of my shit."
I don't understand. Like, I don't understand. Like, even saying it. Like,
Right?
if it was a famous line from a movie, like you have the most famous
Of
porn is
course.
probably what Deep Throat. That's probably the most famous, well known that everybody
Probably,
knew.
yes.
If there's a
Right.
scene from that and it's a famous like saying and it was said to the person that was in it, then you can kind of understand. I mean, if it was like a
Yeah,
famous line, that can be
exactly.
understandable. But or if something that was said
Exactly.
that people saw and just it was just got well the internet nowadays, like say if the internet was back then and it was a meme and all that happened, it was famous for some reason, they said something like that, that's different. But when it
It's
comes
different.
when it
Like
comes to just
when I
saying
do
stuff, it's when it's a famous line and people know it, you can understand it, even if it's like kind of
exactly.
vulgar or stupid. You'd be like, okay,
I do
yeah,
that a lot with the Devil's Rejects.
okay,
And so I always ask people, "Do you just want my signature? Do you want it personalized? Do you want a quote from the movie?" And I offer them two different quotes. I say, "Do you want naughty or nice?" Everybody says naughty. I said, "Well, let me just tell you, the nice one is laugh, clown, laugh. The scene between me and Sid Haig." I said, "The dirty one is, did you just call me a fucking whore?" And they're like, "No, I didn't." And they did. No, I didn't. I go, "No, that's the other dirty line." And they will never repeat it, but they always go, "That's the one I want. That's the one I want." So it's funny because in adult, if you say certain things to me that are just, you have no clue. I will call you back on it in a passive aggressive way.
Yeah.
Um, if it's mainstream, which, oh, I got to tell you something great. So in my adult career, I made 77 films.
Okay.
That's not compilations. That's not changing the title. There's hundreds of them out there, but I only made 77 films. Last week, when I was filming a mainstream movie, I hit 78. I have now officially done more mainstream than I have adult.
That's great.
I've got 2 films coming up in a row. I leave on the 3rd of November. I'm there till the 25th. And I'm being cast in the best roles ever, Skit. I am doing a movie called Dorothea, which is about one of the very rare female serial killers. And she killed her victims in her boarding house.
Oh,
This one takes place in the 80s. I play a I'm getting all of my roles today are the best roles I've ever gotten. I'm being hired as a character actress,
that's pretty much
and
what you
I
are
get
now, right? That's
oh, completely, completely. And so in Dorothea, I play a 77-year-old, um, slightly out of her mind, dementia kind of a woman who's happy as pie and just is goofy as shit. She doesn't know she lives in a boarding house. She doesn't. She's just this wonderfully old, funny Betty White-ish kind of a character.
Betty White was great.
I loved Betty White, and I wrap on that film. It's a night shoot, so I'll probably wrap at about 3 in the morning, and then the next day I have a 9 a.m. call to start my next film, which I'm so excited about both. But just to show you the difference in the characters that I'm studying for right now, it's easier than I
Is
thought.
that
I
the
thought I would
script
have
you were reading when we talked about doing this? Because you said you were reading a script. Is that the one?
no. The first that was the first one, which I
Okay.
got cast in,
Okay.
and then so I wrap on that film at about 3 in the morning. At 9 a.m. the next morning, I start my next film, and I am playing. It's called the Dead Janitors Club. Um, I'm playing death. I play
All
death.
makeup or just you or
No, what we're doing is you're not going to know I'm death for a while because rather than I do have a sickle, you know, um, but I'm glamorized. They're going to make me as beautiful as they can make me. Going to have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, a little bit of an attitude. I do this all the fucking time. Let's get this done. No, so I go from like I've grown out my fingernails and my eyebrows for the old lady role. And so when I wrap at 3 in the morning, I have to come home, pluck my eyebrows, do my nails. I mean, I'm switching from extreme characters within a few hour period. And Skit, I can't tell you how happy I
it
am.
must be really, really
I,
fun.
I love what I do. I love being in front of the camera. And even more so today, because there was a pressure in my early career, excuse me, especially with like the Vice Academy series and the Wing Commander series. And there were all of these places where they didn't know what to do with me. And they didn't think of me as an actress. I was more of a, oh, we've got Ginger Lynn in our movie. Now I get called up to play amazing characters, and I couldn't be happier. How much it's so fun to do things and say things and think things and live a life that I've never lived before. I'm a total method actor. I become my character when I'm on the set. That's who I am. And I did a film called Pig Killer a couple years ago, and it was a really brutal role. It was a film with Jake Busey and Lou Temple. They play my sons. It's based on a true story, and I am the mother of a serial killer. I'm the most foul, disgusting woman you've ever met. I watched it and went, holy fuck, I'm scary. It was intense. And so I could not be happier than with what I'm doing in my career right now.
So now you're doing the mainstream. How was the transition from adult to mainstream? Was there things that you took from the adult world, acting wise, or the way the scripts are read, or anything like that? Because it seemed back when I watched some adult films from your era with the 80s and stuff,
Right?
but it seemed more like a film. Like it
Oh, yeah.
nowadays, it seems much different because I compared the two. How do they compare to you? Because they seem more film like back then, but yet if you watch one now, there's no storyline really. There's nothing there because I watched it to compare them, but it just doesn't seem like a film anymore. It seems like just thrown together.
It's not. And the biggest difference, first of all, I don't watch porn today. It's fake. It's bullshit. They don't eat pussy. The guy walks in with his dick hard. That's not real life. And it's systematical. ABC 1, 2, 3. These positions. Girls don't get their pussies licked anymore. Porn today is so unpassionate. I don't. In the big movies that I've watched here and there, um, it's like a bunch of dead people fucking. There's no interaction. No, they don't even look at each other. It's horrible. When I did porn, it was illegal. We were outlaws. We were rebels. Um, there was no money. There was no fame. There was no fortune. We did it because we liked it. I loved what I did. The 80s are great. The 90s are still pretty good. Just into the 2000s, everything changed. And you've got girls that are 21 that are starring in movies that don't suck dick. That's their rule. I don't. Why are you making porn? Why? What's your? I don't get it. What's your
Well, isn't
reason
that
for
a
this?
part of the fantasy? Like, isn't that what kind of draws men more to? It's all the action stuff. Like the acting too, but it's also what you're doing. That's part of the
The
fantasy, right?
passion,
The passion.
the
It's part of the
fantasy,
fantasy.
and the
Yeah,
community. Yes,
because it's all about. That's what
yes,
it's about. Because that's what draws men in, but it draws in women too. But so is it men are more just the visual of a woman being naked, all that stuff, and then women are more for the passion of it, like seeing the acting and
yes,
the sex, but it's
absolutely.
more of a passionate kind of thing, right? That's pretty much what it is for women.
Sex is the one and only thing that I do where my mind isn't racing about the other thousand things I need to do that day. I get completely lost in it. And I just find it so disturbing today. And a lot of it is because young people, it's harder to hook up, to connect, to meet people. We live in a very different social media world
Yeah.
with a lot less interaction. And that includes dating and that includes sex. And my fear is that, 19-year-old, Joe Bob is going to pull up a video where the guy's donkey punching the girl in the back of the head.
Yeah.
I'm afraid that their guys are going to watch these movies and go, I don't need to lick pussy. Let her just suck my dick. And
But
so
that's
it's
not the whole
unrealistic.
thing. It's doing all of
No,
it. It's the whole thing when you're doing. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's the whole
exactly. So
thing. It's it,
the
it.
only porn I watch these days is amateur or if I have a kink. And
Okay.
I just go on to Google, type in my kink, and it comes up, and I get off.
Yeah.
So,
How do you feel about the fact that comparing porn to back when you were younger, that it's more mainstream now? You have it
oh,
talked about in like monologues. I mean, you'll hear Stephen Colbert or Jimmy Kimmel. They'll talk about MILF porn or OnlyFans or Pornhub jokes. I don't think that ever happened with Jay Leno. or Johnny Carr like that. Well,
No.
it wasn't around back then, but you know what I mean. The concept of
Oh,
pornography or
completely.
anything like
But the
adult
funny thing
films.
about that concept is, so it's absolutely much more socially acceptable today. It's part of our society. It's been that way for 40 years. And in the last 30, it's become really,
Do you
really
think it's because of
popular.
the internet? Because of the
Oh,
swapping,
absolutely.
the because
Absolutely.
remember Napster and all that when that happened? That was for music and movies, wasn't it? So, I think Napster might have actually helped it because so many people can watch it and you just got used to it. Porn getting more and more
Oh,
accepted. It
absolutely.
was. Were you surprised about how much adult films were being accepted all of a sudden?
Um, Not so much surprised as happy, but disappointed with the content.
Okay, okay.
Um,
Do you think OnlyFans had something to do with that? The content being bad?
I'm on OnlyFans. I'm on onlyfans.com/ blame it on Ginger. I love
I don't mean
OnlyFans.
OnlyFans like a bad thing. I mean that with OnlyFans, people who didn't understand like making of adult film properly or adult content properly, that it kind of ruined it a little bit because of the amateurish of it, or do you think it's just a part of it and that's it?
I think it's a combination. I think that a lot of people are sick of the phony, fake fucking, and OnlyFans. I'm doing it for you. I only work with other women. I think that people today are lucky to have the opportunity to connect with me directly. You can send me a text, you can send me a video, you can ask for a custom video. I'll give you a dick rating. We'll just chat. It's another way for me to connect with my fans. But I will tell you the biggest difference between porn and mainstream in the beginning of my transition. Not once did I ever suck a dick, fuck somebody, or do anything sexual to get a role in a porn film. Ever. Ever. Fabulous. I was treated like a princess from day one. I just was. I didn't look like I did what I did. I looked like the nice girl from Illinois, and then I do really nasty things. In porn, never ever did any sexual favors for a role. My very first audition, and I'm not going to tell you who it's with, huge, huge, huge director. Um, Studied for 3 weeks for the role, hired a private coach, got onto the studio, and the first thing this super famous piece of shit director said was, "Can I get a nude top or a topless or a nude photo?" And I said, "No, I'm auditioning for a ditzy waitress." And he goes, "All right, fine, we'll just do a topless." I said, "No, we won't." And I'm starting to get a little butt hurt. And I said, "You know what? I came here to audition. I worked really hard for this. I would like to read for this role." So I kind of calmed them down. I read for the role. There's 3 people in the room, gets real quiet. And this director, who I adored, no longer do, um, said to me, "Okay, that was great. Now I want you to play this like you want to fuck everybody you've ever met." And I started to cry and I said, "You know what? You've got the wrong girl." And I left. I have been propositioned by 100% more people in the mainstream industry for sex in order to get a role. And then I woke up one day and went, "What the fuck am I doing?" Never, never again. So, mainstream tries to fuck me. Porn always respected me. And now I'm in my favorite place, which is independent movies. They're not the biggest budgets. If we're lucky, it's a couple million, 5 million. Um, but I'm a character actress now, and people love it. I love what I'm doing, and it's the best point in my career. So independent film projects are by far my favorite. Don't get me wrong. I loved working with Rob Zombie. He calls me again, I'm there. American Pie, I'm back. You know, there's a lot of films that I've done that um, I would work for the same people again in the independent industry. Um, and I'm at the point right now, whereas like November, I had two companies vying over my time so I could do both movies. So I'm just at a happy place in my life. I have no drama. I have a wonderful man. My career is going well. My art, I've sold over 100 pieces, 150 pieces of my paintings. So I consider my family today my friends from my porn past and my friends from my horror conventions.
Uh,
You know, those are, or not conventions, horror films. Those are my families. This I haven't announced to anyone else because it just happened last night. You have an exclusive. There is a true crime drama book that will come out in 4 weeks. It's called Dawn of Depravity.
okay.
It's about a man named Michael Stevens who started out with a book stand, added Playboy, realized the money he could make, and started shooting all of his own adult videos, which was fine. But he's a sociopath. And so, like, the porn business, he got into it. People were threatening. There were the feds were onto him at one point. And so he had his mob, he had his people to take care of things, but he was so fucking nuts. Like, one of the last things he did, I mean, he did so many horrible things. One of the last things he did was there was an FBI agent who was after him, trying to shut him down because he had billions. He would build yachts out of money
Gee.
and sail them to different countries. This man was amazing. And it was in the early 70s of porn. Uh, so it's a fascinating book. It's called Dawn of Depravity.
Okay.
And we just got picked up by Paramount last week. And I am playing the leading man's right hand woman,
Now,
his elderly secretary. And this will be a SAG. This will be another big movie.
so it's a movie, not like a Paramount Plus series or anything. It's a movie.
It's an Archlight film being distributed by
Oh,
Paramount.
so it's already filmed. You've already filmed it, and you already.
No, we haven't started it. We just got all the deals in place yesterday.
Oh, so you're going to be filming soon.
Yes.
Not,
Yeah. And it's a great character. She's a ballsy, take charge little old bitch, and I love her to death. I can't wait to play her.
so it's all set. You're gonna be. When are you gonna be on set? When does it start filming?
The book release is in 4 weeks, and then we start on pre-productions. I'm gonna guess, and this is just my guess, it'll be about a year before we film the book. We're hoping that the book it's a fascinating book, and so we want the book to have its time, people to be familiar with the story, and then want to see the movie.
Did any being on set of adult films did it prepare you for an on set on mainstream? Is that how that worked? Is it
Yes and no.
okay?
What it prepared me for, I call the last year that it did porn when VHS took over, you know, the 35 millimeter. I only did 69 films in my first stint. Over 40 of them were 35 millimeter. The rest were on
That's why
video.
it probably looked like a film. That's probably
Yeah,
why it
yeah.
felt that way
I
when
did
I
a lot of
watched it.
film.
That's probably why when I watched one of them, it felt like you were watching an actual movie film rather than just like a yeah like okay yeah now I see
Couple
why
people fucking. Yeah,
yeah.
there was a lead up. There was a story. You wanted the people to fuck, right?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, it's just that you're being shown it. So like, but you when you watch like a television show, they can't show what you guys did, but you can tell it's
Right,
gonna happen. They give like they pan away from the bed or
right,
a
right, right.
lingerie falls on the floor, that type of thing. So there is the imagination of it. The difference with you guys, you just do the act right in front of the
For
camera.
for
That's
real,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So 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 like, did they use the same kind of like lighting stuff like
Oh,
that?
oh, oh, let me, I just remembered something. So the main thing I learned from porn that carried over not into my SAG films, but my independent films. Adult films after that first year, my second year was all mostly video. We went from 2 to 3 week shoots to 2 to 3 day shoots.
Oh, so it's quicker.
So it was, oh, way. And so what I call it is guerrilla filmmaking. You get there, you shoot in 18-hour days, you fucking know your dialogue before you get there. You have already spoken to your sexual partners to get to know each other and find out what turns you on and make friends. And it prepared me to be able to do an independent film. um, I'm always on time. I'm always prepared. I've always, I'm a method actor. I've always created my character weeks before. Sometimes it takes weeks for it to go away afterwards. Um,
So
but it's, I forgot what my point here was, but it's just, it's fabulous. The similarities, and so I was prepared by porn for independent filmmaking, where they do shoot things sometimes in 3 days, sometimes 3 months. It depends on the project, but it's always tight. It's always tight. There's no room for fuck ups. Even when I worked with Rob Zombie on which one, The Devil's Rejects. Um, Sid and I had one read through. We never met each other. We had one audition, not audition, one rehearsal, and we filmed that scene. Had I not been prepared by porn for anything, because a lot of times when you were filming porn, they go, all right, we're not shooting this scene next. We're going to take this because it's raining. And so I had to be prepared for any and every situation. And that was amazing.
so so with the filming when you filmed with the 35 millimeter you said, right?
Oh, yeah.
That was more like a lengthy shoot, like a month or so, right?
No, they would usually be 2 weeks to 3 weeks.
Okay, so but with when you did the VHS, that was a few days you said, or a week or something like that.
Yeah, VHS was 2 to 5 days.
So basically, you just took the 3 week thing and expanded it to four, that process, and then you took the 3 day or day with VHS and just expanded it if it had to be a week or so when it came to independent films. Is that the way you kind of
Yep,
thought about it? Yeah.
that's exactly. I know how valuable time, film, people's contributions, everything that we put into it. Everybody on independent films that I've worked on, it's a labor of love. We all give it everything we have because we want to make the best product that we can. I'm having a great time.
Yeah, I'm ecstatic. You've been terrific. I'm glad I contacted you. I really am. Uh,
Thank you. I hope I hope your show is extremely
so
successful,
do I. Yeah,
and I really wish the best for you.
thank you so much.
I'm going to show you one of my paintings
Okay,
that's behind me here.
okay,
Move my computer back so you can see her.
that's
All right.
really beautiful.
What do you see?
I mean, I see a couple of different things actually. It's kind, it's kind of like a, I don't know. For some reason, up top, I see like a head, kind of like a leg here and a
Mhm.
head there. Um,
You're absolutely right. It's an abstract. All my paintings are abstract. It's a woman.
yeah,
When I paint, I usually smoke a joint. I go into my studio and I pull my colors. I don't know what I'm going to paint. I put on music. I just let Siri pick, the Apple Music pick whatever it wants,
okay,
and that's where I start my process. I have hundreds of women's or men's magazines with nude women in them. I keep them in my art room, and I will paint based on my music, my high, my feelings, and that image. This is a very famous porn star that I painted here. Someone that I've known for a long time, was wonderful when I met her. Hadn't seen her in a really, really long time. She kind of fell off the face of the earth. And she was hugely popular. And I met her, or not met her, I saw her again for the first time in 25 years. And it was so sad. She was so frail, so fragile, so insecure, so obviously on some sort of substance. It broke my heart. This painting is Jenna Jameson.
Oh,
So
okay.
my paintings, but don't get me wrong, I've sold over 150. If you go to gingerlynnart.com, there are there's probably about 50 or 60 paintings up there right now.
So, so your painting process is mainly music and smoking a little bit, and that's basically it. Just like
Yeah.
relaxing, and that's your method with painting. How do you get like the name for your paintings? Is there certain names that you get that comes to you while you're painting? If you name a painting, like how does that process
Um,
work? If
like
any?
I didn't know I was painting Jenna when I painted her. I did the piece, um, and then I went, wait a minute, I just saw Jenna. I I just painted Jenna. So I don't even know who I'm painting all the time. I've done Nina Hartley, Christy Canyon. I did a beautiful one. I just sold it. I painted Aubrey Adams' pussy, and it's 4 by 6, and it's pinks and reds and purples and greens, and it looks like a flower, and then there's this twirl where you know that's the clit. So I do a lot of animals. Everything is abstract, but it's my process is weed, music, and women.
Well, how old were you when you started painting? Like when did you start?
28 years ago,
Yeah, and
I started painting the year my son was born.
that's good. Did you paint like him at all at first?
No, I painted with him.
That's cool.
No,
That's cool.
I have, hold on, I will show you two paintings. Just unplug my laptop that my son did when he was about 5. Can you see it? It's it's a lightning bug. There's another piece on the wall over there, and he did that at about 6.
Wow,
I had
he
taken
really.
him to Cabo. I took him to Cabo San Lucas, and everybody's carrying around lizards, and he took all these pictures with lizards. And he came back and painted lizards. I've got, not in this room, but I've got 3 giant, amazing pieces that he's done. He's not as much as a painter as I am, much more of an illustrator, and he draws, and he's very, very detailed. So my son is was my inspirement to start painting, and then my jewelry, which is my other line of business. My grandmother taught me how to design jewelry when I was a little girl. And February 11th, 1986, I woke up. I had just bought my first home. And I went, fuck, I do not want to suck cock today. And that was one of my rules. The day my head told me no, I quit. I still had 2 films under contract with Vivid Video. I called the owner and said, I will honor my contracts. They said, you don't have to. I said, I gave my word, I will.
I have a question about that because of what it entails. If you say you don't want to do that anymore, does the actor have more leeway compared to a mainstream film because of what it involves? Do you have more of a leeway to say no to that because of the sex
Oh,
involved?
absolutely. Yeah. No, if and that's one of the things that beautiful porn star taught me that day is she said if you ever don't feel right about what you're doing, don't do it. It will fuck you up. It will kill you. I don't know if you pay attention to social media with porn stars. We have a porn star suicide pandemic. It's suicide, and I blame social media because every fucking coward in their mom's basement who doesn't have the courage, the ability, or the manliness, the humanness to say something nice to a person. They try to get porn stars' attentions by being cruel and evil and slut shaming. And it's ridiculous. And women are dying daily. And the weird thing is, with this stupid fucking woke culture, which makes me sick, um, the thing is now, I just don't like the fact that people from the privacy of their own homes can be such cowards and push women to do such things. It's not an industry. If I met 100 girls who told me they wanted to do porn, I might tell two that they've got what it takes. And I'm not talking about your beauty, your sexuality. I'm talking about your attitude. You have to be strong. You have to, I don't, my boyfriend reads all my emails before I do, all my text messages, all my shit, because I don't want to see it. I know there's horrible people out there. I refuse to let you have that space in my head. Very few women have been able to do that. There are so many suicides today. There are so few of us legends left. And then there's the group of the girls in the middle who are trying to figure out where they fit in. It's a tough, tough industry. You need to have a set of balls. And I had a reputation for being a bitch on set. And I'll tell you why. As I said earlier, the only thing that I ever do where I don't think about anything else is fucking. So my rule was that my partner or partners and I would go talk to the director, ask him what he needed in the scene. And then he was told by me to do not speak a word to me while I'm filming. I will give you everything you want, but so much more if you don't tell me to lift my left leg. Keep the fuck out of my sex scene. So I was one of those girls on set. Like, my sex scenes are real. If a director told me something to do, I'd stop the scene because it's like
It
this
interrupts it.
this
It interrupts the
yeah,
if it's even it's not like a connection in reality, it's the way everything's going. You're filming a scene, you're acting, and you're getting into the mind of the character, whatever connection that character may have with the other one, basically, right? And when they come in, they kind of ruin that because now it's a situation where it's acting, but it's also with real life because the sex is actually real. So
right.
it's like a combination that you're doing and like, I mean, and shouldn't they already have like the shots kind of figured out beforehand?
Well, and they do. The director has, this scene, and we you discuss, okay, are we doing missionary? Are we doing blowjob? Are we doing anal? Are we doing vaginal? Are we doing DP? Or is it a group scene? So every scene that I agreed to do was agreed upon beforehand, and what would be in it was agreed upon. So the courtesy I gave to the director was, just tell me what you need in here. I will give you that and so much more. Please let me do what I do. And so I'm going to brag a little bit here. I am so proud of 99% of my sex scenes because they're real. Another thing the hugest thing that's missing in porn today, other than pussy licking, kissing. Kissing. I'm sorry. Am
What
I that old fashioned?
you
Is that
talking
not
about
popular?
you talking about in the adult films or just in general
Yeah.
among the generation?
Um. No, adult films.
Because it seems like the generation is kind of like the newer generation of adults is a little bit different.
Oh,
But
they're completely different. They don't kiss. They don't do with it. They've got. It's just. It's not what it. I've made myself available to any girl in the adult film industry. My number is everywhere. And if you have a good day, a bad day, a question, should I do this, or a doubt, or whatever is going on in your head, I'm kind of like the porn house mom. Breaks my heart. Yeah, get the fuck out of the industry. You don't belong. You can't even understand the mindset. So let's say that tomorrow you make a porn movie. No one's going to see it. All of a sudden, everyone's seeing it. You're winning awards. You're the most popular porn star in the world. People treat you differently. They're nicer to you. They are ruder to you. They treat you as though they know you because they've seen you intimately. They feel a connection that they don't with most other actors. And not every fan is a good one. And a lot of people who it's just so easy, as I said earlier, to be a coward and judge. So that's part of it. But also, you brought up a good point. The girls don't always know how to say no. And no is your biggest weapon you have. No, baby, no. And they do things that they didn't agree upon. They go home, they feel like shit. They get on their social media and they call her a whore and a slut and a
I
cocksucker.
mean, it was like
And
that even in high school for some teenagers, and they'd haven't
oh
even. It
yeah,
was like, see, I remember stories where it would be, and the girl was a virgin, never did anything, but because the person liked them or they said no, that no would end up turning into they slept with everybody because they said no to the
yeah,
one person. But the difference is with the
yep.
internet, it's just it blows up because with adult stars, they hear it the most because they actually have done stuff, but they're so open because there's Instagram, Twitter, so they're gonna read it. Which are you surprised that they actually read it?
I am.
Were
Oh,
you surprised
so
the
many
the
weird
the
things.
whole monologue? I think I asked you earlier. What was something that you heard in a monologue recently with OnlyFans, a joke like that, where you were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe they actually mentioned it." Was there anything specific? Like you couldn't believe it? Like, wow, this is mainstream. OnlyFans is.
No, no, I've actually been very happy and excited about the acceptance factor of porn. With the woke culture, no matter who you are, what you do, what you believe in, what you think, what color you are, what sex you are, um, there's no such thing as shaming anymore, which you shouldn't. It's not okay. And the woke culture has made that perfectly clear. And I agree
Yeah.
with that. The only thing that you can criticize and slut shame are sex workers. Porn is acceptable as it's ever been, will only become more so, but at the same time, it's being shamed. It's like we still sex workers still wear the red scarlet letter. All I want to do when I see those is wrap my arms around the girl and pull her out of the industry. And don't take this the wrong way. I love sex workers. I love the adult film industry. I think there's a huge need for it. We don't get to connect so much anymore. Um, but it makes me sad that in our woke culture, porn is the only industry, women in the industry are the only ones that it's still okay to slut shame. And the way that I've dealt with that, I fucking own it. I am a slut. If I was a guy, I'd be a stud. There's nothing wrong with it. Everybody fucks. We would not be here if we didn't fuck. I just happen to really love fucking. I did my radio show with Christy Cannon for 10 years on Playboy. I would be so canceled, so done, so over with pretty much every show I did with her.
How would you compare podcasts to that radio show? The differences. Like if you started a podcast right now with her, would you ever do that with her again? Like start a podcast like that?
We did one about 3 years ago, and we have about 140 episodes. It's fucking hysterical. But just like a comedian can't tell a joke anymore, our show is too real, too honest. Put it this way, when we started working together, we had all our training and the rules of the studio. And it was like a 5-page contract. 10 years later, it was about a 300-page contract because I never did the things they said I couldn't, but I would come up with new things. So here's a perfect example of I would have been probably arrested in the day or today for doing this. So we have this guest on our show, this beautiful little Asian girl who her grandmother taught her how to shoot ping pong balls out of her pussy. I'm fascinated. So I call Christy that night and I go, all right, I've got an idea. I'm buying ping pong balls and a paddle. I'm going to shoot them out. You're going to paddle. We're going to play ping pong with my pussy. It's going to be amazing. So we get on the air, got all our little setup, put a ping pong ball up in my pussy. And I don't push it too far because I want to be able to push it out. I put it in there and I lean back and it goes bloop, bloop. No, it fell out. So now we're like, all right, I need to push harder. We need to get it up in there. So we get it up in there. I'm pushing. Nothing's happening. Now I'm getting a little nervous. HR is watching, of course. My dad calls into the show. My dad never watches, doesn't listen, but he would call in just because he was my dad. Fucking Christy picks up my dad and goes, "Hey, Wayne, how you doing? I got a question for you. Has Ginger ever had anything stuck in one of her holes?" I'm mortified. This is my father. And my dad goes, "Fuck yeah. When she was 3, she stuck a bead up her nose. Took us like 2 days to get it out. No, she puts things in her hole she shouldn't." Now I'm mortified. My dad has no idea what's going on. We hang up with my dad,
And everybody
and
else
a
must be
paramedic
laughing because of what he
Oh, they're
said.
hysterical. So then before I call the paramedics or they call us, we decide we need to get it out. So Christy puts lube on her fingers, goes in, the ball is spinning now. Isn't that? So I have an idea. I'm thinking, what about the hose and the vacuum cleaner? We'll just suck it out. So I send one of the people down to get the vacuum cleaner. A paramedic comes in and goes, "Ginger, what are you thinking?" I go, "I don't know how to get it out." Because do not put a vacuum cleaner up your pussy. He says, what you need to do is get on your hands and knees and push. No matter what comes out, you just have to push or you're going to have to go to the ER. Don't ask me why, but we had a cat litter box in the studio with cat litter in it. So I'm on my hands and knees. I'm pushing. There's no video. Christy is losing her shit. The phone calls, everybody's hysterical. HR is ready for the police to come. And I finally pushed, and it was kind of like having a baby. Not only did the ping pong ball come out, but every other bodily fluid. That was one of our shows.
Your show was like kind of like a Howard Stern in a way, but you were more free because of. Okay,
Exactly. It
okay.
was meant, I wanted you to laugh, get a hard on, and be disgusted every show I did. And I accomplished that. So we start doing our podcast. Patreon has taken us on. We're all excited. And we do this show where this guy writes in and says he has a fantasy of his wife laying eggs. I can lay eggs. So hard boiled eggs, 3 hard boiled eggs go up inside of me. And we've got our table, our desks, that all our paperwork and our mics and our equipment's on. And I crawl up on the table in a chicken position. And I'm going, bah, 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 and then we laugh. You can't. I would fall down from laughing so hard, but I still had 2 more eggs. So So we did like a half an hour of me laying eggs. It's hysterical. Today, there's no fucking way we could do that. And we actually quit because Patreon incorporated a new law. So if you type in Ginger Lynn on Patreon, nothing will come up. You type in Chrissy Canyon,
They
nothing will come
banished
up.
you.
The name the name of our podcast was Who Let the Girls Out. Type that in, nothing. The only way that you could find our podcast was a direct link. So
Wow.
they fucked us. So there was no way that we could have, but in my opinion, we stopped at the right time because we're too free spirited,
Have you
too
ever
much fun.
thought of just making a website for your stuff and just doing it that way?
I just turned that down. No, you know what? With between my acting, my painting, my jewelry design, when you go to gingerlandart.com, my pieces are one of a kind, handmade, designed by me, and they're stunning.
They
They're
are good.
just
I
beautiful.
went through them and saw them. They're,
Aren't they
yeah, they are.
pretty?
They're really good. I see. I was surprised that you painted because it's not because of what you've done or the acting. It's just that when you find out somebody does something, it's always surprising. Like if somebody starts singing in the car,
Right,
it's like I didn't know you could because you didn't know that previously. But if you
right.
happen to see them drawing one day or doing something, oh, okay, they can draw. But how do you come up with your names for jewelry, and how do you decide what to do? How do you do that?
Um, I have a box with individual little containers with all my main pendant gemstones. Everything from amethyst to black onyx to moonstone to the rose quartz to jade. All of my pieces are made with natural healing stones, natural metals. And what I do is I'll get up and pick out a main piece. And then I have 10 different boxes. One is black, one is white, one is purple, one is orange, one is green. And I pick the box that matches the color of the pendant. I put it out on my board. I design it and then I walk away. And then I go back throughout the day. I make changes. And each piece is somehow so individual and so unique. The way that I name them, you're going to laugh at me. Um, I love music. I will put on, I'll just pick a playlist or a band or an artist and I put their music on. And when I hear a word that matches the piece that I've designed, I name it.
The biggest takeaway from your mainstream career, your adult film career, and being a mom? What were the biggest
Ooh,
takeaways from all those things?
wow, that's a big one. Um, the biggest thing that I think I learned or obtained from doing adult movies was confidence, um, comfortability with my sexuality, and my ability to stand up for myself.
Okay.
Those are the things, and guerrilla filmmaking, but those and I have lifelong friends. I have two families, three. I have my blood family, I have my porn family, and I have my independent film family. I do also have a mainstream, you know, what do you call it? Union films. I That community is still really weird. Um, I go in, they hire me, I do well, but there's still a stigma, still a they're not watching all of my independent movies, going, "Wow, she can really fucking act." Um, but so from adult, that's what I learned. From mainstream,
Mainstream, independent, both kind
they're
of.
separate.
Oh, they are okay.
Mainstream, I learned that most actors are two faced, followers who jump on any fucking bandwagon that might make them look popular or cool or wonderful. I am not a big fan of mainstream actors.
Okay.
I love Richard Brake. I love Virginia Madsen. I love. Uh, there's a ton of Sid Haig was one of my favorite people. Bill Moseley, Michael Berryman, Kane Hodder. I have the mainstream, but it's not my comfortable area. I still feel like the porn star on the set. I don't feel as accepted as I want to. I love working on them, but it's the hardest thing I ever do. What I learned from independent films is that the people who make them do it out of a labor of love. I walk onto a set and there's, a 20-person cast and crew. It's a small set, it's a 2-week shoot. I make a new family on every film that I do, whether it be 1 day or 3 weeks. The horror community, as far as actors, directors, special effects people, makeup artists, everybody who works on horror, there's the independent horror, there's not a lot of money to be made. They do it because they care. And all of us, I watch people doing their best to make it better. It inspires me to do my best to make it ever. I have learned to be kinder, more accepting, and part of in the independent film industry.
That's good. So you feel more part of that industry than the mainstream.
Absolutely.
Right, so
Absolutely. And more than the porn industry at this point. I did a convention in Denver a few weeks ago, and it was a 6-hour convention. I had a line the whole time. And I've never done this before, but I asked every single person, what is the first thing you ever saw me in? Skit out of, let's say, 600 people. How many people do you think said porn?
out of 600,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe 20 to 30, maybe 20.
Two.
That's it.
Two. People knew me from the Wing Commander series, from the
Oh, that's right. The
Metallica video.
computer thing, right? The computer.
Yeah, the game with Mark Hamill, John Rhys Davies, Malcolm McDowell. Um,
How was that? Sorry to sidetrack, but
oh no, that's okay. Chris Roberts wrote the game series at 13 years old.
wow.
Genius, wonderful man. Um, I loved John Rhys Davies was my favorite. Malcolm McDowell is a total character, and Mark Hamill made me cry. Um, he was, in my opinion, under the influence of something. He didn't know his dialogue. And on the day that we were supposed to have a scene where you, as the player, decides, as the leading man, do you kiss Ginger Lynn or do you kiss this other actor? And we've done the alternate other two endings. It's turned from my ending where we kiss. And one of the first ADs, really sweet girl, comes up and she goes, I'm so sorry. I need to talk to you. I'm like, okay. And she takes me into this uh, green brick hallway with metal stairs off the set. And you could tell that it was the hardest thing she had ever said. She said, I am so sorry, but Mark refuses to kiss you unless you provide an AIDS test, an HIV test. And I'm standing there, and you know that lump you get in your chest? And I'm trying so hard not to cry. And I talked to her for a minute. I'm crying. My heart is broken. I call my agent and I tell him what's going on. And he goes, that's no problem, Ginger. because you're not fucking filming with him until he gives you an AIDS test. Mark shut down the production for 2 days because of ignorance and judgments.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's not my favorite person. It was a horrible experience. People love him. The Mark Hamill, and all I can speak of is my experience with him. He was a fucking dick.
So
Did I just say that?
yes, you did say you did.
I did, and people will hate me for it. It's my experience. I'm 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 sharing it.
Everybody has their experience and their personal experience and how they feel towards something, and everybody does. Everybody has different experiences with different people. Some are
Right, and you know them during that moment, like John Holmes. I met him in 1984. It was after the Wonderland murders. I'd heard he was a drug addict, involved in murder, this really fucked up guy. But they told me that I was meeting him in one of his good phases. And so I'm at the airport in Los Angeles. I meet John at the airport and we're talking, and he's super nice. He's not on drugs. He's obviously in a great place. And we get ready to walk through security. Now, I'm 21 years old. I smoke pot. I've got like a little bud and a pipe in my pocket. And so I pull it out and I go to John, what do I've flown like 4 times in my life. I go, what do I do with this? And he grabs it from me. And you know the little bowl they give you to throw your wallet and your keys in? He throws my pipe and my pot into his driver's license as though it was his. Yes, I go through. He goes through. Neither of us get caught. He rips me a new asshole. What the fuck are you thinking? What is wrong with you? It was like my big brother going, I was getting scolded. And from that moment on, I had so much respect for that man. I have no idea what he did in his off time or the times I didn't know him or the Wonderland murders. I don't care. The John Holmes that I knew, my time with him was amazing. We did 6 films together and I adored him. Mark Hamill, I did one movie together. He was not a gentleman and I didn't like him, but I only knew that one little piece of Mark. I'm sure he's a wonderful man, just not towards me.
What's the biggest thing, biggest takeaway of being a mom?
The biggest takeaway from being a mom, the joy that I have in watching my son become a man, the pride I have in the choices he's made, the, again, proudness of his energy, his attitude, his work ethics, his being a good man. And all I did was do the same thing with him that my dad did with me. I never judged my son. When times got tough, Mom, I'm always there. He has a little thing on his desk that says, "Stay calm, call mom." He calls me every day. I love his fiance. I call her Mini Me because she's exactly like me. But I've never felt. I've loved. Oh my God, I love my dad, my grandparents, my father, my boyfriend. Friends. But the love that you have for a child, I didn't expect it. I knew I wanted one, but Sterling was about 6 weeks old, and I had him in a baby Bjorn, and I took him to Malibu. And there's a certain area where there are big pebbles, rocks. And so when the water washes up, it's not onto sand, it's onto these rocks and makes this beautiful noise. And so I'm just standing there, we're listening to the waves and I'm loving it. I'm like, I'm a mom, I'm so happy. And I see this guy watching me. Hairs on my back stand up. Something's not right. I pick up a rock, a big fucking rock, and I walk back to my car. I open the back. I had an SUV. I open up the back. I'm putting shit in it. Still have my son attached to my chest. And this guy comes up behind me and touches my back. I got the rock in my hand. Boom! It was that maternal, I will fucking kill for you. I will die for you. Stay the fuck away from my son. It's a love that I could never have imagined. There's nothing like it. And he's the joy of my life.
If tomorrow wasn't here, right? Because the days are not always guaranteed. What is it that you hope
Never.
your son has learned from you throughout his life? That he always remembers if you were gone tomorrow, but he'll always remember it, and you hope he got from you and learned from you.
Two things. One thing that I've always told him is you treat family like friends and you treat your friends like family. That's the
Yeah.
one thing. The other thing is a tattoo in my handwriting on my son's back that he got at 18, and I was there when he got it. And it says, you cannot change other people, places, or things. You can only change yourself. Love, Mom. I want him to learn to accept, to be his own man, to be proud of who he is. Don't expect people to change to fit your needs. You have the ability to change, to be anything you want, to live your life to the fullest, enjoy every moment. Um, I encourage him occasionally to do dumb things. Like last year, he and his fiance decided to move to Hawaii. Everybody told him not to. I'm like, honey, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. Fucking go. It didn't turn out. It sucked. It was supposed to be a beautiful 5 years in Hawaii. It was 3 months of hell. But he did it. He did it. I know that I've taught him to live life to the fullest. One of my favorite sayings, and I say it almost every day, is today is the only today that I get, and I'm not going to waste it.
That's very, very good. That's it seems like you and your son have a great relationship, and as everybody can tell, you love him very, very much. And
I do.
it seems like it's been great for you, and the fact that you said that you weren't expecting because of what happened, you weren't even expecting to have any kids, and it seems like
Yeah.
it was meant for you to have a child for some reason. Even though that you had whatever issue, you were meant to be a mom, and you were meant to have the son you have.
Most difficult job I've ever had, but the best one.